Early in 1940, I was in the transit camp for the Royal Artillery at Ascot Racecourse and received orders to go to France. We left by train from Ascot West down to Aldershot and then joined another train to Southampton, where we boarded a paddle steamer for France, and we landed the next day at off the Cherbourg Peninsula, and we went to a transit camp quite near Cherbourg, and then we were split up, and I was given papers for 6 men. And although I wasn't an NCO, I was put in charge of 6 men, and we had to find our way to a unit in France, well down in the Pas-de-Calais at a place called Douai, just outside Douai. We reached the camp there, which was a regiment, a battery of the Royal Artillery, attached to the 50th Infantry Division, and we settled in quite easily there, and in due course the Germans invaded the lowlands and we had to go into Belgium, into action. We saw action up near the river, I think it was the River Lisle, but we got driven back into France all around the area of the Great War. We found ourselves in the trenches of our fathers. It's most strange. But then, of course, we got driven to Dunkirk. We had to retreat. There was no way out. We were overwhelmed with the German air power, and the armoured power was too great. And we were pushed towards the coast at Dunkirk. Now, we didn't know we were going to Dunkirk, but one night the padre in my regiment spoke to me and he said, "We are pushing towards the coast and in a few days we should be in England." Well, couldn't believe this. From a battlefield, we were in action there. But it was true. And we started walking, and the nearer and nearer we got to Dunkirk, we found the whole roadway, every road was chock-a-block with vehicles, British vehicles and French vehicles, horse-drawn guns, all sorts of war material, and there was no way out of it except to go on foot. And one night we must have walked 25 miles, edging our way into Dunkirk. It was a very difficult journey because lots of vehicles were on fire, there were lots of wounded people everywhere, and we were being machine gunned from the air as well as ground artillery, German artillery. But eventually we got to the town of Dunkirk and it was on fire. And everywhere we went we saw ambulances on fire, houses on fire, everything was burning. But somehow or other we managed to make our way down to the beaches, and there were just hundreds and hundreds of men there in a great snake of column from the edge of the sea right back into the edge, to the beach, top of the beach on the town. And I managed to make my way. I thought it's every man for himself here, so I went down I managed to edge my way down to the sea, and by some chance I got onto one of the little boats, because the Royal Navy at low tide they couldn't bring cruisers and destroyers in near enough for anyone to get onto them. So the little boats ferried us out. But the boat I got on was turned over by an aerial torpedo, caused a huge wave. It turned our boat over. We were tipped into the sea, up to here. I managed to scramble back to shore, and I made my way onto one of the moles. I think it was the East Mole, and the wooden part of it. And by chance, in that time, the tide was coming in, and one or two destroyers got in, and I managed to scramble aboard HMS Vanquisher. It was packed with men. We were lying on the decks, holding onto ropes, all sorts of things, and lots of wounded were down in the cabins down below. But the destroyer made its way out quickly, and we zigzagged our way across to Dover. We were in England. We had to zigzag because there was a possibility of German U-boats in the channel, and also aerial bombardment and machine gunning. But we got through safely. We got to Dover, we boarded trains there and went to Aldershot. And from Aldershot we spread out all over the place. First of all we went to Oakhampton, to the artillery depot in Devon, and then by some chance we moved up north to Manchester, and we spent a couple of nights in the Bellevue Zoo. The animals were still in there in cages, but that wasn't our resting place. We went out from there to the village of Knutsford. Now I had some injuries on my back. The skin was off my back because I'd been wedged between two vehicles on the road to Dunkirk, and my jacket and my underclothes were stuck to my back with septic problems, and I needed medical care. I managed to see a medical officer at Knutsford, and they put me into an emergency hospital run by the VADs just outside Knutsford. It was an old workhouse that had been turned into a hospital for Dunkirk people, and they treated me there for about 10 days, and I left there with a huge plaster over my back, but the septic part had all gone, and I made my way south to try and find my regiment, what was left of it, and eventually I found them in Dorset, and we were travelled by train to Crewkerne in Somerset, and then by wagon to a little village, Martinstown, just outside Dorchester. And we had no weapons, nothing, only the clothes we stood up in. But the invasion of England was imminent, so they had to find some American rifles for us, and they turned us into infantry, and we joined our own infantry, the Durham Light Infantry from our brigade. So we became infantry for about a month, scouring the countryside for parachutists. But then we got some guns, some French 75mm guns from American consignment, and we went onto the Chesil Bank near between Lyme Regis and West Bay to defend that part of the coastline. We had 12 French 75mm guns and plenty of ammunition, and that was our duty for several weeks while the Battle of Britain threatened. Now when the pressure was lifted in September, we moved inland, and we left those old guns behind and we moved inland, and we were re-equipped with brand new 25-pounder field guns, ammunition and new weapons, new clothing and everything. And we very soon realised that we were going to the Middle East, because we had Middle East dress provided, and topies for the heat and everything. And we moved into Devon for a while, and from there we went to Glasgow to take a train to Glasgow, and and we took a ship from there in a convoy to go to South Africa and up to the Suez Canal to join the 8th Army in the Western Desert.